Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
You can wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. GM. Monday, 21st of October. Daily levels. So, Bitcoin dominance was dropping on a Sunday as Bitcoin attempted to break out from a consolidation, and which means altcoins were leading the charge. They pushed ahead more, and as a result, we got a false breakout, and Bitcoin took out the highs of Sunday, so it pushed up. And early Monday, it took out the highs of Sunday and is now reversing. And probably is giving the first pullback. Let me get this, clear that off. This is probably where you'll see the first pullback attempt of the week. If you remember, in the last couple of videos, we've been talking about the days of the week analysis and all of that. This is now aligning with what we would have seen. You saw a green on the 20th. And then somewhere between now and the mid to end of this week, if you see a pullback, it's probably a good place to start looking to get long if the market holds up, because end of the month flows tend to be positive, and it's more about price than time now, really, because you just need to see enough of a pullback and enough of a reaccumulation or consolidation in order to be able to effectively get long. So starting to pull back, but it's obviously nothing major, right? Now this is a very typical topping pattern where you have multiple attempts to push higher, right? And each time it just tries a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And do not forget what's happened here. Then people pile into alts. And you probably would see another day or two into alts, followed by a reversion by BTC. And quite often that next reversion, that next bounce by BTC will be a down move for the market, not an up move. Right? If you look at the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of October, you'll see exactly this. This was the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of October, right? That return back to BTC dominance, the bounce in BTC dominance was correlating with an actual sell-off. Because people get too far into alts, and then the alts pull back, and they pull back more than Bitcoin, so Bitcoin dominance rises. The main thing is, all the way through here, for the past week, roughly, almost a week, about 6 days now, all I've seen on my feed is bears are fucked, Bitcoin's going so much higher, this is it, this is the breakout, all-time high, 70k next, no problem, easily going to hit 70k, and yet Bitcoin has gone basically nowhere, while altcoins have rallied. So it's just the classic setup. It's a classic setup of Bitcoin stalls at the highs, altcoins run further, and then everything pulls back. So my expectation is that we probably do see everything pull back, maybe to the 50 or the 100 of the 4 hour. The 100 would align with what should be a pretty rock solid support level, and the 50 obviously would align with this most recent kind of area. And I mean, it depends. I had those couple of paths, and it went to the point where, you know, pulling it back was, is it here or the other one? It's the other one. You know, this blue path became more likely. And I would still say, provided Bitcoin holds around here, I would still say that blue path is pretty likely, could happen. I don't think the red path is fully off the table though. It may have just done a little bit more of a squeeze up than what I was originally expecting. If you remember last week, I said we got above 65 to 68 was the range, and that I expected us to spend a few days in that range and then drop down if it was going to do that drop. So for me, it would still have to be that 68, right? If you start to see price fall back inside there and it's trading around like that, you might see the full move down. I'm not as, I don't know, I'm not as, I wouldn't be as keen on that path because of what we've seen since. We have seen further strength from BTC since. And unless we see some kind of sharper sell-off, I would imagine that Bitcoin is able to hold higher than people expect, and that this dip, if it comes, I mean, it looks like it should be starting, but there's certainly no call to short here. I'll show on Trade of the Day how I would actually trade this. This dip itself should, in all likelihood, not really go much lower than that and just be one of these squeezing consolidations before going higher. As it does fall back, so people start to feel bearish or try to short it or whatever, and then it just kind of hangs around and is frustrating to bears and doesn't give bulls the entry they want. It drops back to 67, maybe into that 50 EMA, but doesn't give any deeper correction, doesn't give opportunities to get in, or whatever you might think. So part of the reason as well why the 65 to 68, that being able to reverse and go all the way back down into this, part of the reason why I think that is less likely too is time, right? We've managed to spend more and more and more time above 68 and above that breakout point, and you're basically getting close to an area here where you wouldn't expect such a deep correction on BTC, because we're getting close to the end of the month. Like I mentioned, end of the month tends to have more positive flows. You're getting close to the election, which the bet on Trump is ongoing. And if Trump wins, there's certainly no deep pullback coming, not from these levels. And I guess maybe if Harris wins the election, that could be a catalyst to push Bitcoin down into some of these inefficiency levels. So I think a lot of that matters with where Bitcoin's price is on the 1st of November. There's a lot of talk on my feed about how Bitcoin's going so much higher and it's all good and it's all this. For all that talk, it's gone nowhere. You have to be mindful of that. When there's so much talk about something, when there's so much focus on something about how bullish or whatever, and it doesn't actually go anywhere, that's an indication in itself. And at the same time, when you see the altcoins outperforming, pushing well ahead, if we get total 3 on. So altcoins, if you zoom it in here, had moved right up, well above their previous week's highs, Tuesday highs, and are still sitting there. Whereas BTC, previous week's Tuesday highs there, it's back below. So Bitcoin had been leading for most of the week, and then that switched around towards the end of the week. And so I think that as we go towards the end of the month, we're going to see some compression of that. Trump's odds, 61.39, no real change there. It does matter because Trump and Harris, or not Harris really, but just the Trump odds, we can see a pretty clear correlation. And it's now, again, it's something that people are like back focusing on, so it's worth keeping an eye on. And options expiry, because we do have big OPEX for BTC this week. It is the October options expiry, 4.3 billion notional. And where we're at right now, we're at 68. Huge 70k call wall. So there you go. They tend to act like a magnet as price moves towards them. So what we've seen is it has tried to go there. It has stopped at 69.5. And given that this is just 4 days away now, it seems unlikely that we will be above 70k on Friday or before Friday. Because essentially, it's not exactly how options work, but essentially, if we go above that, a bunch of these generally retail-based, speculator-based calls are in profit all of a sudden. It's not exactly how it works, but it's the assumption to make. That's why these levels get defended, because if it stays below, right, basically if Bitcoin expires Friday, 25th, below 70k, all of this expires worthless, absolutely guaranteed. That creates an incentive for price to stay below. And generally, because the person on the other side of this is the smart money, is the market maker, the pinning effect tends to happen. There really is nothing. I mean, 65 acts like that as well. So we have 68, where we're at now. We have tried to go to 70 once. I would not say we can't, by the way. And this goes both ways. If we go above 70, that's when you get a gamma squeeze. If it goes above 70 today or tomorrow, you then get the same market makers who have been hedging or have maybe not hedged fully or who are betting on it to not go above there. They're trying to keep it below. They have to buy back exposure into Bitcoin if it goes above 70, and that's how you can create a domino effect where it pushes through, and that starts off a chain reaction of more buying and more buying and more buying, and that's when you can actually see moon. I think that will happen after, not before. I think it'll happen after options expiry. Therefore, this week, since we've already tried to go there, I think 65 is a lowest point, right? I would expect that before Friday that should get defended. And Friday is over here, right? So Friday over there. So if price does go up, watch for 70 not to break. If price does go down, watch for 65 not to break. And we end up closing somewhere in there. That'll be my guess. And I will break down exactly how I would trade that during trade of the day. But what else? Zoom out, look at some of these weeklies. And I'll put on those 200-day moving averages that I was talking about on the weekly outlook. So, that doesn't look right. No. I need a 200-day moving average. Bum, 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 bum. Here we go. So Bitcoin, close the weekly, nice and strong. Get one that doesn't have all that weird glitching. Nice strong weekly close. Everybody's seen it. Everybody's seen the shift. We've finally closed above the July highs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's why we're pulling back at the start of the week, because how many times do you see a chart like this and then it has a strong close? You're like, oh yes, that's a trigger. Let's get in. You get in and it goes down straight away. That's why the strong weekly close doesn't mean the price will only just moon immediately and never, ever, ever pull back. Sometimes. It's unlikely though. Here was like one of our best close, like full, clean weekly close above. What do? We spent an entire week consolidating. Now this is your little secret trick for this week ahead, because there's a lot of very, very similar type of weekly structure that we had back on the 19th of February. Or if you go back and look at it, I'm pretty sure this swept out early in the next week. So we closed the week over here. So it was the 19th. There we go. So we closed the week. So that was the weekly high of the strong breakout week. We closed it here, wherever it was. Sunday into Monday. So it closed around there. This one we didn't sweep it on Monday. We swept it on Tuesday and then down to support and then consolidated. Then consolidated. And that was also options expiry. Was here, Friday. Because it was February, short month. So that Friday, options expiry week, Bitcoin had a strong weekly candle the week before options expiry. It then swept the highs of that week early in the following week. It then moved down and consolidated with very low volatility until options expiry. After Friday OPEX, boom, away it goes. So if you're looking for the bull case, it's something like that. We've had the sweep early in the week. We might get another push up. This is probably the most clear support, right? It doesn't have to go all the way to 65, but I would say this support level is where you probably would expect to see the market stay above. And then you Friday options expiry. And then after that, away it can go. If it's going to be a similar bullish consolidation before higher. So, get back out. In any case, good weekly close, above the 200, weekly band's green. Total 2 has work to do, and total 3 has closed above both. But they're not inflecting upwards yet, the 200. Just closed the bands green. This is good, bullish consolidation attempt. That's the way I would describe it. It's on its way up. It's moving the right direction. It's got work to do. And that is it. GM.